meet you the co-host, Prabhu. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So reading from fourth canto, chapter 21, verse number 37. Mat jatu teja prabhavan mahardivisi titikshaya tapasa vidyaya cha dedipyamane jitadevatanama kule swayam raj kuladvijanama. Synonyms. Ma, never do it. Jatu, at any time. Tej, supreme power. Prabhavet, exhibit. Maha, great. Riddhivi, by opulence. Titikshaya, by tolerance. Tapasa, penance. Tityaya, by education. Cha, also. Didipyam mane, upon those who are already glorified. Ajit Dev Tanam, Vaishnavas, or the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kule, in the society. Swayam, personally. Raja Kulat, greater than the royal family. Vijanam, of the Brahmanas. Translation: the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas are personally glorified by their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibit its material prowess before these two communities and should avoid offending them. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prithu Maharaj has explained in the previous verse the importance of devotional service for both the rulers and the citizens of the state. Now he explains how one can be steadily fixed in devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, while instructing Rupa Goswami, has compared the devotional service of the Lord with a creeper. A creeper has a feeble stem and requires the support of a tree to grow, and while growing, it requires sufficient protection so that it may not be lost. While describing the system of protection for the creeper of devotional service, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has specially stressed protection from offenses unto the lotus feet of Vaishnavas. Such offenses are called Vaishnava Aparadha. Aparadha means offense. If one commits Vaishnava Aparadhas, all of his progress in devotional service will be checked. Even though one is very much advanced in devotional service, if he commits offenses at the feet of a Vaishnava, his advancement is all spoiled. In the Shastras, it is found that a very great yogi, Durvas Muni, committed a Vaishnava Aparadha, and thus for one full year had to travel all over the universe, even to Vaikuntha Lok, to defend himself from the offense. At last, even when he approached the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vaikuntha, he was refused protection. Therefore, one should be very careful about committing offenses at the feet of a Vaishnava. The most grievous type of Vaishnava Aparadha is called Guru Aparadha, which refers to offenses at the lotus feet of the spiritual master. In chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his Guru Aparadha is considered the most grievous offense. Gurur Avagya Shruti Shastra Lindanam, Padma Purana. Among the 10 offenses committed against the chanting of the holy name, the first offenses are disobedience of the order, spiritual master, and the blasphemy of the Vedic literature. The simple definition of Vaishnava is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A person who immediately reminds of one of the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, is a Vaishnava. In this verse, both Vaishnavas and Brahmanas are mentioned. A Vaishnava is a learned Brahmana and then therefore designated as Brahmana, Vaishnava, Brahmana Pandit, or a Vaishnava and Brahman. In other words, Vaishnava is supposed to be a Brahman already, but a Brahman may not be a pure Vaishnava. When a person understands his pure identity, Brahma Janati, he immediately becomes a Brahman. In the Brahman state, one's understanding of the absolute truth is mainly based on the impersonal view. When a Brahman, however, rises to the platform of personal understanding of the Supreme Godhead, he becomes a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is transcendental to even to a Brahman. In the material conception, the position of Brahman is the highest in human society, but a Vaishnava is transcendental even to a Brahman. Both the Brahman and Vaishnava are spiritually advanced. A Brahman's qualifications are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita as truthfulness, mental equanimity, control of the senses, the power of tolerance, simplicity, knowledge of the absolute truth, firm faith in the scriptures, and practical application of the Brahmanical qualities in life. In addition to all these qualifications, when one fully engages in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he becomes a Vaishnava. Prithu Maharaj warned the citizens who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Lord to take care against offenses to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Offenses at their feet, lotus feet, are so destructive that even the descendants of Yadu, who were born in the family of Lord Krishna, were destroyed due to offenses at their feet. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot tolerate any offense at the lotus feet of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Sometimes, due to their powerful positions, princes or government servants neglect the position of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, not knowing that because of their offense they will be ruined. Okay. ओम ज्ञानोदयस्य ज्ञानाञ्जलशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः नमः ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about identifying Vaishnava Aparadha, what is Vaishnava Aparadha, and the consequence of that, and of course the how can we counter Vaishnava Aparadha. So I don't think it will be possible to cover everything in today's class, so we'll have probably a couple of parts of this series. So let's start with understanding what is Aparadha, who is a Vaishnava, because unless we really know who is a Vaishnava and what is exactly Aparadha, we will only speculate. So we should be very clear what are Aparadhas, what is offense to the devotee, and which devotee. Is it only pure devotee, Uttamadhikari, or it includes everyone? So let's start with that. So the definition of Aparadha. Now, so it's basically made up of two words, up and radh. So up means against, and radh means devotion, as if aradhana, because Radharani's name, it is actually derived from the root aradhana, worship. Okay, so up means against Radha. Basically, you go against Radharani, or you go against bhakti, or you go against worship of the Lord. So that is the meaning of aparadh. And aparadh, definitely it is much more severe than any type of most sinful activity also, because sins are only connected to karma, and they do not necessarily they cause any disturbance to bhakti or any obstacle to bhakti, unless that sinful activity becomes aparadh. Because once we take initiation, and after that, because one of the instructions that we are supposed to follow is regulatory principles, and if we are breaking the regulatory principles, or if we commit some sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name, then it becomes aparadh for us. So although it may be sinful activity, but it can be converted to aparadh. And of course there are different types of aparadh. We'll go through that, but we'll focus mainly on Vaishnava aparadh, because that is the most severe offense to the holy name. Okay, now who is a Vaishnava? So ideally everyone is a Vaishnava. Now, not just devotees, but the entire all living creatures, living entities, they are all Vaishnavas ultimately, because they are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So we are supposed to respect each and every one of them. And of course, you must have heard about this, that a devotee will go to the extent of respecting even an ant on the street, right? And will be careful that even insects are not harmed. Unnecessarily, they are not harmed. If they are causing some problem, or they are harming us in some way, then of course we can take some reaction. But otherwise, we do not unnecessarily, we don't cause pain to any living entity. So this has to be understood, because a Vaishnava aparadh is a separate category, but then there is also Jiva aparadh. So the reaction, of course, is not that severe as we commit aparadh to the Vaishnavas. But purposefully, if we continuously keep doing aparadh to the Jivas who are non-devotees also, or any living entity, then of course there is a reaction for that. So one thing we need to understand is that aparadh is applicable for everyone. We have to be respectful to everyone. And now, of course, there is the consideration of the bhakti aspect, which means that depending on the level of advancement of a particular person, then we have to take care about that particular devotee's status in spiritual life. We definitely offer more respect and more worship to the Uttamadhikari, or someone who is very advanced, and then we offer less worship and respect to someone who is less advanced, and then someone who is least advanced. So then we offer the least respect and worship according to the degree of the advancement of a particular devotee. We offer that kind of respect to them. Now this is stated by Nari Sarkar in his Krishna Bharnamrit, wherein he is explaining the principles of Guru Tattva. But then he also says that if someone does not know the status of the devotees, who is Uttama, who is Madhyam, Kanishta, then he's supposed to offer equal respects and worship to the devotee. Although one needs to discriminate, one needs to understand who is who by the knowledge of Guru and Sadhu and Shastras. And by that discrimination, one can advance in spiritual life. But if one remains neutral, then one cannot advance much. Okay. Of course, that innocence has to be there for every devotee. A devotee should always feel that we are the least qualified, we are the most fallen, and accordingly we can give respect to others. So this is one thing. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was asked 3 different times in Jagannath Puri by devotees that who is a devotee. He was asked this question. So he gave 3 different answers. One time the first time he was asked this question, he said that a Vaishnava is one who chants the holy name. Even once if he chants the holy name, he is a Vaishnava. Then next year when he came to Jagannath Puri, then again devotees asked, he said that Vaishnava is the one who constantly chants the holy name throughout the day. That's Vaishnava. And then third time when he came, again devotees asked, and then the answer that was given by Mahaprabhu was that just by looking at a devotee, one is inspired to chant the holy name. So that is the third level of devotee. So then later on, devotees understood that actually Mahaprabhu, when he's answering the question, he's basically discriminating and he's giving the characteristics of 3 different types of devotees. So one is Uttama, another is Madhyama, and then the third is Kanishta. So Kanishta, basically they will chant the holy name at least once they have chanted, and then sometimes with interruption they will chant the name. And then Madhyama is the one who chants constantly. It becomes a part of his life. It's very steadily he will chant the holy name with dedication, devotion. And then Uttama is the one, of course, because of his purity, because of his constant chanting, automatically others will chant the holy name just by being in his presence or by his instructions or just by seeing at him. Looking at him, one can actually start chanting the holy name. So that is the purity effect of, like for example, Srila Prabhupada is there, our Acharyas is there. So just by seeing them, one immediately start chanting the holy name like that. So these are the 3 different levels and definitions of devotee that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave. And then one time, Srila Prabhupada, so this is Ballavi Devi Dasi, a Prabhupada disciple, and she is sharing her experience. So during the lecture Prabhupada gave, when I was initiated, he asked us what the 10 offenses were. And Jadurani said, the first offense is to blaspheme the pure devotee of the Lord. Prabhupada said, no, it is an offense to blaspheme any Vaishnava who is sincerely spreading Krishna consciousness, propagating the holy names. That point, that every devotee is to be honored, stuck in my mind and heart. Those few words of instruction I directly heard from Prabhupada to honor all Vaishnavas who are helping to spread Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement in whatever way they are able, and to remain strongly resolute in purpose, have stayed with me all these years. We may distribute books or be a Krishna conscious mother. Whatever service we do doesn't matter, but if we do it sincerely without letting ourselves be distracted by Maya, will please Srila Prabhupada. So here Ballavi Mataji is saying that any devotee who is helping in the spreading of the Sankirtan movement is to be considered as a sincere devotee, and the Aparadha applies to those devotees also. It's not only meant for pure devotees or Uttama Adhikaris, okay? Now, see, there are different, as I was sharing, that there are different categories of devotees according to their spiritual advancement, and that advancement definitely can be equated with the 9 stages of bhakti, from Shraddha to Prema. So Shraddha is the first stage where we have some small faith, and then we get into the association of devotees, then they instruct us, they guide us, we take initiation, and then we start bhajan kriya. which is basically they say that okay, chant 16 rounds and follow regulative principles and do Shravanam and take sadhu sang and all that. So there will be bhajan kriya we start, and then gradually what will happen? Anartha nivrati will start happening. So Kam, Krodh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, lust, envy, anger, greed, pride, illusion, all these will start gradually going away. And then it will bring us to the platform of steadiness in bhakti. And that steadiness further will lead us to spontaneous attraction for the process of devotional service, the limbs of bhakti. And that attraction will finally culminate into asakti, which is intense and strong attachment towards the Lord. And that ultimately leads to the state of bhav. So sadhana bhakti is from shraddha to asakti, and then bhav bhakti, and then prem bhakti. So basically the goal of sadhana bhakti is to attain bhav bhakti. It is not prem bhakti. Okay. And there is a differentiation here between bhava and prem. It's not directly prem because bhava is itself a very advanced stage, and we attain a spiritual body where we can see the Lord, we get darshan of the Lord, and the internal potency of the Lord, which is Samvit and Ladini Shakti, enters the heart. So basically, the gross body gradually transforms into spiritual body, and that happens at the stage of bhav. So devotees at the stage of bhav, of course, they will also exhibit ecstatic symptoms. Okay, and then finally, after the bhav is completely fructified and matured, it turns into prema. So if I don't know if devotees remember, we had a session on Madhurya Kadambini, and we explained all these with the help of slides. So bhava is like the asakti is like the bird, and then bhav is like the state of bhav is like the flower, okay, in the plant or the tree, and then finally the state of prema is compared to the fruit, like mango, like that. So it is described in scriptures that bhava is actually one ray of prema. So like the sun, which has got infinite rays, so bhava is like one ray of prem, and prem is compared to the sun, like that. Okay, so Uttamadhikari devotees, they are at the state of Bhav and Prem. And then below that, we have Madhyama, and then we have Kanishta. Okay. So this is how we understand. And then, of course, based on the devotee whom you offend, the reaction is also proportionately similar, higher or lower. Okay. So I would like to read one verse from Bhakti Samrit Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami, and then the commentary by Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Thakur. Okay. So Rupa Goswami states this is from the second wave, first chapter, and verse number 38. By an offense against the dearest devotee of the Lord, even real bhav will be destroyed. If the offense is grave, if the offense is medium, the bhav will turn to bhavabhas. If the offense is slight, the bhav will become an inferior type. So Jiva Goswami's commentary, by two types of grave offenses, offense to the dearest devotee or to Krishna himself, even real bhav is destroyed. By median offense, bhav becomes bhavavas. By slight offense, the bhav degrades in category. Becoming an inferior type means that there will be degradation in terms of the 5 rasas and the 8 stages from Mahabhav to Rati. Thus, change in bhav will take place according to the seriousness of the offense. And then Vishwanath Thakur's commentary, bhav will be destroyed by aparadha to the dearest devotees of Krishna. An example is Vividh, the monkey, a follower of Lord Ram. By aparadha to Lakshman, his bhav disappeared. By medium aparadha, bhav becomes bhavavas. If the aparadha is slight, the bhav changes type. Or for example, Madhurati becomes Dasyarati. Dasya becomes Shantarati, like that. So this is from, this is from Bhakti Samrit Sindhu, first wave, third chapter, verse number 54. Okay, so now what does that mean? So any devotee who commits a serious aparadha or a very intense form of aparadha to a exalted Vaishnava, then even if the devotee has the stage of bhav, he will actually lose the stage of bhav. The bhav will be destroyed completely. So this is the result of offending or the severity of offense. If the offense is of medium type, then that bhav, the stage of bhav that we have attained, that becomes bhavabhas. So basically, it the meaning is that it will only resemble that bhav, but you are not no longer in that particular stage. So it only resembles that. And then the third category of offense is if you um, offend someone with a less intensity of aparadh, then the ras will actually degrade. So let's say if some devotee is in Madhurya ras with Krishna in the spiritual world, or he's realized at the stage of, because at the state of bhav, you realize that you have a rasa with the Lord, and that ras is actually one of the five rasas. So let's say if the devotee is realized he has got Madhurya ras with the Lord, but then if they commit some less intensity of aparadh towards a Vaishnava, then that changes into, from Madhurya, he will actually fall down to Vatsalya Rati. Okay. And if someone is at Vatsalya Rati, he may fall down to Sakhya, and then Sakhya to Dasya, and then Dasya to Shanta. It may happen that sometimes if the offense is grave, then directly from Madhurya Rati, one may directly fall to Dasya Rati also. So this is what we need to understand, that there are different gradations of aparadhs. Okay. It all depends on which devotee. Let's say, for example, if a Kanishta Adhikari offends a Uttama Adhikari, then the reaction is going to be severe. If a Madhyam commits aparadh to the Uttama, reaction will be severe but less severe. And then Uttama committing, so we have example in the Shastra where even Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, they have also deviated, and they have lost their exalted position because of that. Of course, they are Gunavatar. So this is just an example to show to us. Ultimately, all these are they are perfected siddhas. So there is no question of their deviation or falling down. But by their example, the Lord is actually teaching us. Okay. Next. Yeah. So now, see, in bhakti, we need to understand one thing very clearly, that it is not the quantity that is important. Okay. There are devotees who maybe they are able to chant a lot of rounds, and there are devotees who may not be able to chant so many rounds, or maybe they are not externally they are not chanting extra rounds. All initiated devotees expect to chant minimum 16 rounds, but some devotees may take the extra endeavor to chant more rounds, and some devotee may not be able to chant more rounds, or maybe they are their inclination is towards other services based on their own nature. So one thing we need to understand, that those devotees chanting more rounds or doing more services, so nothing is measured in terms of quantity. Everything is measured in terms of quality. And that quality is definitely dependent on the stages of bhakti. So from Shraddha to Prema, the more you are towards Prema, the more you are advanced in spiritual life. It does not matter whether how much quantity you are externally numerically doing, because the more you advance, your mental state will keep doing that repeatedly. For example, if someone wants to chant more rounds, then it's not necessary to chant more rounds externally. Internally, a person may keep chanting, and we may never know, which devotees are doing that. The most important factor is your quality, your bhav, your emotion, your attitude towards chanting or serving or dealing with devotees, your attitude of how much you respect the devotees, how much you want to serve them, how much you want to menially serve, everyone, and how much you are surrendered to the Lord. So all these, these limbs of bhakti are more important than the quantity. Okay, so quantity, of course, can help you to become steady, but it's not necessary that someone who is chanting more rounds or who is doing more seva or whatever, it does not necessarily mean that someone is very advanced. And then we have examples from scriptures where one devotee was chanting continuously throughout the day. And Ramdas Vishwas, his name was Ramdas Vishwas, is mentioned in the Gaur Leela, and he became friends with Raghunath Bhatt Goswami. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met them, he did not even look at Ramdas Vishwas. In fact, he had a lot of service attitude also. Externally, he was showing, I mean, this is also something that devotee can do. Externally, they can show that okay, they have a lot of service, nice, good attitude, humble attitude, and they may want to serve all the devotees. But then internally, they want to think they probably want to become the best devotee, and they would like to defeat other devotees in their seva or in their chanting of Krishna's name. So it is possible they may do all these kind of, it may be a show of bhakti also, because we don't know anyone who are associated with such kind of devotees. We may never know. Ultimately, the Guru and Krishna knows what is going on in the heart of the devotees. So in this particular example, this devotee was very humble, extremely humble, and he used to carry the bag of Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, and he used to also serve prasadam to all the assembled devotees, and very menial service he used to do. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he met him, he did not even he did not even give glance to him. Why? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as Paramatma, he knew that within his heart, although he was chanting the names of Lord Ram continuously, but within his heart, he had the desire to become Lord Ram. So he basically was a Mayavadi. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very upset. So the Lord is Sargrahi and Bhavgrahi. He will extract the emotion from you, and he will also see the essence of your entire life of devotional service. So he'll extract that. It like if one moment you are very sincere, another moment you become insincere, and then steadily you do that, then it does not attract the Lord. The Lord sees how much steadily you have been maintaining the qualities of humility, or all the good qualities of a devotee. So that these aspects are very important. The quality is very important, and that's how we actually try to understand that okay, someone is very advanced. And naturally, the more you are close to the stage of prem bhav and prem, the more you acquire all these qualities. So this is how we understand the advancement of a devotee, and accordingly we also seek the association of these devotees. Yeah, okay. So now let's try to understand what is actually aparadha. Of course, technical definition we know, but then what exactly, like if, like, for example, let's say, for example, if I have no intention of hurting any devotee, but because of some circumstances, I say something, and then that devotee takes it otherwise, or maybe that devotee expects something from me and he doesn't get it, so he may feel hurt about it. So is this also aparadha? Of course, one thing is very clear. If I intentionally hurt someone because of envy, or I don't like that devotee and intentionally I do something, then of course that is aparadha, right? But the other types of thoughts, they are not necessarily aparadhas. And it, of course, it also depends on whether you do it repeatedly with the same devotee again and again. You may not have the intention, but then if the Lord is giving you a lot of experiences, then from the experience you can try to rectify yourself. It should not happen again and again. So you may not want to hurt some devotee, but if you do it again and again, that becomes intentional then. So you need to also be conscious that if I did something wrong, and I need to take some steps to rectify myself. For example, like so like we, of course, offending devotees is the biggest type of offense, and to criticize someone, or um, to say negative about someone in order to destroy his character or position or exalt his status, these are definitely very severe offenses. But then small things can also become offense. For example, one of the first offense to the holy name, we'll go through the 10 offenses to the holy name. One of the offenses to disobey the order of spiritual master. So in that, now, technically speaking, Prabhupada gave his life to his books. He sacrificed so much for his books. And if we devotees, we think that okay, it's absolutely fine if I'm not able to read Prabhupada's books, it's okay. Then there is a subtle offense, because we are not valuing the sacrifice that Prabhupada underwent, and how much he wanted to give us the books, and he expected us that we should read the books. So there are so many thousands of instructions where Prabhupada says he is requesting all the devotees to read his books, scrutinizingly, thoroughly, sincerely, systematically. But if we uh, intentionally develop this attitude that I would not like to read Prabhupada books, that becomes a subtle offense in one sense. So Prabhupada, so one time Giriraj Maharaj, he went to Prabhupada and he told him that because Prabhupada gave him instruction to write books, Giriraj Maharaj, as a he asked him to become an author and write books. And Maharaj that time was extremely busy serving Prabhupada personally, so he could not write books. And he went to Prabhupada. He was feeling guilty, so he asked Prabhupada that, is it okay, Prabhupada, I'm not able to write the books. So Prabhupada said, that's absolutely fine. I mean, but then he was asking Prabhupada that, is it an offense to disobey your order? Prabhupada said, it's not like that. So uh, you, for the time being, you can suspend that instruction because you have some other important seva to do. But you should never neglect the instruction completely. So if the spiritual master tells you something and you just neglect it, thinking that, okay, this is not relevant for me or this will not help me, then that becomes an aparadha. But if you consider that, yeah, I need to follow the instruction, but at some point of time I will do that. So that is called suspending the instruction for the time being, so that other important things can be done. Same thing Prabhupada also did with his Guru Maharaj. I think you all know that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he wanted Prabhupada to preach throughout the world in Western countries, Western language. And so many years Prabhupada was trying his best in India, but not work out. And that time he was feeling that he was not following the instruction of his Guru Maharaj. In fact, I think repeatedly Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was coming in his dreams and he was telling him that go to the Western countries and preach. Finally, Prabhupada did it after many years. So he said that, well, I did not neglect the order. It was always in the mind, in my mind. When the time came, I just started following that. So it was suspended for some time, but then it got continued. So Prabhupada fully executed the instruction of his spiritual master like that. So, like, and even when we communicate with devotees, now if you, let's say if a devotee will contact you and if you do not respond to that devotee, so it can happen one time, two times, three times. If you purposefully neglect, then of course it can lead to a sour relationship, where maybe in the future it may turn out to be a small offense because intentionally you are ignoring the devotee or neglecting the devotee. For what reason, that is also important. But let's say for some, I mean, without any reason, you just do it just to make a show that, okay, you are so busy, or just to maintain your exalted position in ISKCON or in devotee community, because others have done to you the same thing, so you also do with others. Or others, they are, because you also understand that you can be respectful when I mean, you attain a position when you are very busy. So just to show your status, you may ignore some devotees, and they may be junior also, or they may be equals also, or maybe they may be seniors also. So all these, so the intention of all these things will matter, and that will count for whether it is going to be aparadha or not. If done by mistake, or if you are engaged in some very important service, then it's understood. And if you're doing some great service for Srila Prabhupada, then it can be considered as okay, that it's not a very severe offense. But if it is done purposefully, without any genuine reason, and intentionally you keep repeating that, that can become a small offense. So, and then gradually, and the nature of offense is such that one offense actually leads to another offense, and that offense keeps on building up. So it can become a big offense also. So later on, what will happen? If you do not respond to a devotee, then in the future you may not respond to a senior devotee, and that can become a greater offense. Okay, so that becomes, so whatever we do, it becomes a nature, it becomes a habit, and that habit, it is, irrespective of whoever the devotee we are dealing with, it can show up in that dealing. So we need to be very careful about that. So these are all like very important things, which we need to keep in mind. And I will go through the Vaishnava etiquettes also, some of the Vaishnava etiquettes that we are supposed to follow. That will give you a good idea how we are supposed to deal with devotees. Okay. Yeah. So in the Bhakti Sandarbh, Srila Jiva Goswami mentions in verse number 172. So it was said that chanting with or without faith delivers humans. If one acts without thinking intentionally of offense and without wicked intention, it does not interfere with bhakti. But if one intentionally commits offense, this will interfere with bhakti. And the example that he gives is Vena. So Vena, if you remember, his son was Prithu Maharaj. So Vena chanted the name of the Lord with envy, and bhakti did not appear. In the same way, sometimes the shakti of a substance is impeded. For instance, the fire's power to burn is impeded by damp wood. So the same thing, that if you do something intentionally with wicked intention, then it definitely creates obstacles. It can destroy bhakti also. Okay, now of course there are other different types of categories of offenses, and one is that you may mistreat a devotee physically. Like physically you may, or you may become violent with a devotee, and physically there is some sort of exchange. So that is the most severe type of aparadh. And then you may do it verbally also, by criticizing or by saying certain things that can hurt others purposefully. So by verbal, physical, verbal, and then finally mental. Now mental, the thing is that in Kali Yuga we have a concession that whatever sins we think in the mind, we don't get reaction for those sins. But aparadh, if we think of any particular devotee and if we blaspheme the devotee in the mind, or judge a devotee in the mind, then it can also lead to reactions. So of course, in the mind, what do you do? That reaction will be less severe, and physically will be the worst. But in Kali Yuga, aparadh will give you reaction in the mind also. So there is difference between thinking of sinful activities in the mind and thinking of criticizing or blaspheming a devotee.
Sorry, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Can you repeat this, please, if you don't mind? The mind one and physical.
Yeah, physically is like you get violent with some devotees, and you beat some devotee, and mentally if you think ill of some devotee, even if that devotee has not done anything wrong, or you judge a devotee or you criticize a devotee for no mistake of theirs, intentionally you do it, then that becomes an aparadh. And in Kali Yuga, even aparadhs, they have got reaction. Okay. Since they do not have reaction in the mind, but aparadhs in the mind also, they have got some reaction. Of course, whatever you do in the mind, whatever thing in the mind, finally it comes out in the form of verbal abuse, or it may come out physical abuse, like that. So we have to be very careful, and we have to try to um, divert our mind in such a way that whenever the thought will come, we should replace that with a higher purpose. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All right. So let's go through the list of 10 aparadhs. Just as a matter of, like I will just share briefly, and I will just share some points about the remaining offenses. So we have 10 offenses, and these are given in Padma Puran, Brahma Khand, 25th chapter, verse number 15 to 18. So the first is to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second is to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Okay. So first one, though we know, right? But second one, I just wanted to share. See that the position of Lord Shiva is a bit complicated. It is not so easy, because sometimes it is said that Lord Shiva is equal to Lord Krishna or Brahma or Lord Vishnu in scriptures, whereas on the other hand, it is mentioned that Lord Shiva is inferior to Lord Krishna or Vishnu. So there are two Shivas. In fact, you can say there are three categories of Shiva, and that's why Shiv Tattva is a bit complicated subject matter. It is not so straightforward. Shiva also acts like a guru. He is also guru in one sense. And of course, he's also a Guna Avatar. So, and then he's also the greatest Vaishnava. And at the same time, he's also the Ishwar Tattva, right? So that's why Shiv Tattva is a bit complicated. But there are three different types of Lord Shivas. Okay. One is Lord Shiva, who is in the spiritual world, and he's a Ishwar Vaikunt Vishnu Tattva. So Vishnu has got 60 qualities, and similarly, Lord Shiva manifests 60 qualities. And that Shiva is called Sadashiv or Ishana in the spiritual world. Okay, in Vaikuntha Loka, he's got his own planet. And Sanatan Goswami talks about that Lord Shiva is that the devotees who are dedicated to Lord Shiva, they are devotees of Lord Shiva, they worship Lord Shiva, but they know that Shiva is servant of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Such devotees, they go to the abode of Lord Shiva, Sadashiv in the spiritual world. Okay, so this is one category of Sadashiv and directly equal to Vishnu Tattva. Second category of the Shambhu that we hear from the Brahma Samhita. So that Lord Shiva is basically Vishnu displaying less qualities. So that Vishnu which displays 55 qualities, not 60. So that is sometimes it is also called as Shiv Tattva. Okay, so that is Lord Shiva of second category. And third category of Lord Shiva is a Jiva who becomes Lord Shiva. Okay, so these are the three different categories of Lord Shiva that we must remember. And now, if you know, when the Shastra is saying that Lord Shiva is not equal to Vishnu, so of course, the Shiv Tattva and the Jiv Tattva, they cannot be equal to Vishnu. Okay, I will just come back because I think someone is ringing the bell. In two minutes, I will come back. Okay, yeah, sorry. So these are the different types of Lord Shiva, and so sometimes the Shastra says that he's not equal to Vishnu, and sometimes it says that he's equal to Vishnu. So in that sense, of course, as Guru, he may be like equal. Like we say that Guru is not different from Krishna, but then at the same time, Guru is a Jiva, and Lord Shiva can be a Jiva, he can be a Shiv Tattva, or he can be directly Vishnu. So that way we need to understand. Okay, so there should be no confusion about this. And one thing is clear that ultimately Vishnu is the supreme, Krishna is the supreme, that we know, and then all the others are expansions of Krishna. So that way we have to consider. And of course, there is we should never disrespect any particular demigod. Okay, so the third offense is to disobey the orders of spiritual master. Fourth offense is to blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance to the Vedic version. Blaspheme the Vedic scriptures means thinking that these are all bogus, or whatever is given is not applicable, or it is not true, does not work in Kali Yuga, like that. Then fifth offense, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to the imagination. Yeah, so glory of Hare Krishna. So the Mahamantra claims that it gives liberation, it frees us from all the karmas. So there are many glories that are mentioned about the holy name, and if you think that these are like imaginary or not applicable, then that's an offense. Then to give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. So you may also interpret it. Oh, well, yeah, this is there, it's given in Shastra, but that is just to encourage devotees. It is not like that. So that kind of interpretation is also offense. Then seventh, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. So if one thinks that one can commit just because holy name or the process of bhakti can destroy many karmas, or it can also destroy reactions to our past sinful activities, so we keep doing sinful activities on the strength of the holy name, that becomes a very big offense to the holy name. So that sinful mentality has to be stopped. It has to be totally be curbed. Then to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kand. To think that the holy name is like a karma kand activity, we have to follow as a matter of obligation, and it will give us some result. So like that, if you think like that, then that's also offense. Ninth offense, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. So if someone is not interested, atheistic in nature, is not favorable, then we are not supposed to preach to that person the glories of holy name, because then that person will start becoming antagonistic to the name. And then finally, the 10th offense, to not have complete faith in chanting the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Okay, so you have read many scriptures, you hear from sadhus, they all tell you about the nature of the material world, and we are supposed to associate with devotees, cultivate sadhu sang, and advance in bhakti. Automatically, all the material attachments should go away. But then you still purposefully you keep maintaining those attachments, even after repeatedly hearing the instruction. Then that can also become an offense. So these are the 10 offenses. And then finally, Bhaktivinoda Thakur concludes that he says that ultimately inattentiveness while chanting the holy name leads to all other type of offenses. So you can say this is the 11th offense, which is to be inattentive while chanting the holy names. And of course, it does not only mean when you are chanting the holy name, but when you are also serving the holy name. And that serving the holy name can refer to your entire day. So it's not just a matter of 1.5 or 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but the Lord is seeing your entire activity, the activity for the entire day, and what you are doing in that, how much service you are doing, how much absorbed you are in the Lord. So these things will all matter. And if you are attentive in all these things, then automatically your chanting will be offenseless. Otherwise, it can lead to all these different types of, the more you are inattentive, the more your mind will wander here and there, and the more you will commit offenses. Okay. So Bhakti Sandarbh Srila Jiva Goswami again mentions text number 153. He says that though bhakti has all the powers, if one does not see results in the worship, so if you may be worshipping the Lord for many years in this life, but then you are not able to have direct perception of advancement, then Jiva Goswami says that in some scriptures it is mentioned that offenses were probably committed in previous lives, if no offenses are committed in this life. So, in bhakti, disrespect for Vaishnavas, discrediting the powers of the name, and other offenses are causes of obstacles in bhakti. So there may be residual offenses from the previous lifetimes, and one typical example is that of Bharat Maharaj. So it is mentioned that the reason he got attracted to the deer or attached to the deer is because in the previous life he committed some aparadha, and that's why he had to fall down from the state of bhav, and he got deviated. But then, of course, he got special mercy of the Lord also, and he attained another 2 lives, and then finally succeeded. But he also remembered his previous life, so he continued from where he had left. So this is the reason why we have to be very careful, and maybe, of course, we do not remember, we don't know what offense we committed in the previous life, but whatever stage we are at, we should at least try that we should not commit offense at this particular stage. Now the way there are 10 offenses to the holy name, that way there are 32 offenses to the services, to the seva or to the deities. But the holy name is so powerful. Now see, there are 10 offenses. Out of those 10 offenses, the 3 are very severe. Of course, Vaishnava Ninda, that's the first and foremost. Second is to discredit the powers of the name. Okay, somehow minimize the glories and the potency of the name. And third is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy names. So what rectification we can take? One is we should stop committing sinful activities. So that will take care of the third offense. Second, for the second, we should try to increase our faith in the holy name by in the association of devotees. Try to hear from the devotees who have got that kind of faith, conviction. So that will avoid the second offense. And the first, that Vaishnava Ninda, that of course has to be rectified only by begging forgiveness from the Vaishnavas. Rest all the other offenses, they will just go away by chanting the holy name constantly for fixed number of rounds every day. And even the 32 seva aparadhas that are applicable for the deity worship, they also will go away gradually. And that's why Jiva Goswami says that for each and every limb of bhakti in Kali Yuga, it always should be assisted by the holy name at the end. So that's why you'll see Prabhupada gave a system where we start with Mangalarti, which is a Panchratric system. The deities are worshipped, but then at the end we finish off by chanting the holy name, by doing kirtan. So like Samsara Dava, and then Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. At the end we say that. So that's the recommended method by Srila Jiva Goswami in Kali Yuga, because Kaler dosh nije raran asti ek manmuna. Krishna Kirtana Deva Krishna se Mukta Sangha Param Rajit. That everything is full of fault in Kali Yuga, but only chanting the holy name is like the king. Okay, and the faults, whatever faults we commit in the process, these are all nullified by chanting the holy name. And Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti, Eva Nasti. We know that verse also. So in the age of Kali, chanting the name of the Lord is the only method. And that's why we chant the holy names. Yeah. So see, you may get afraid that, okay, there are so many aparadhas to be taken care of. Initially, we thought that bhakti is so simple. Prabhupada advertised like, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And everything is so like everyone is a pure devotee and, selfless devotees. So, but when we get into association of devotees, we realize that like we are not on that stage because we are kanishtas. And then gradually we come to the platform of Madhyama. So we definitely get this feeling that, okay, if aparadha is such a danger, then why to get into association of devotees? But one thing you need to remember, see, aparadha is generally kept by the Lord. Like, see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave mercy to such an extent that the least qualified and the most fallen can attain the highest state. Okay. But then the question is that why did not remove aparadhas, the reaction to aparadhas? Actually, Mahaprabhu has also done that to a great extent, because this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is a Yugal mantra, Radha Krishna. In earlier yugas, devotees, they were scared to chant the holy name. Or spiritualists, they were scared to chant the holy name because the offenses, reaction to the holy names were very severe. But Mahaprabhu is merciful that he has, to a great extent, he has actually absorbed the reactions to the offenses to the holy name. Rather, so although other processes were recommended in Kali Yuga, in the different yugas, Satyug, Treta, and Dwapar Yuga, but people did not chant the holy name. So there are two reasons given. One is that they thought that was so simple. It's like just a lip service. Although people, they had a lot of capacity for doing austerity and meditation for thousands of years. So for them, it was very simple. So they took it for granted. At the same time, they were also, those who knew the glories of the holy name, they were afraid of the offenses to the holy name. So that's why they were not able to chant. But by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he gave the order for us to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then the reaction to the offenses to a great extent has been absolved. Now what we are getting is basically a token reaction. Okay. So, but that token reaction also can sometimes become very heavy for us because we cannot tolerate that. But still, one thing we can understand is that offenses needs to be there because, if just imagine if offenses are not there, reactions to offenses are not there, what will happen? We'll treat everyone like anyhow. will not be respectful, and will always try to dominate, will always try to control others if offenses are not there. So certain things need to be there so that we develop some good qualities and we always be respectful to the devotees. So if offense reaction is also removed, then you can just imagine it won't be a society of pure devotees, it was a society of Kanishta devotees. Okay. That's why the offenses reactions are still there. But you only have to worry about a severe offense, severe type of offenses, because some offenses will happen unknowingly or unintentionally, and that can be taken care of by chanting the holy name of Lord constantly, and of course with a repentant heart. So there is a very encouraging words that Srila Rupa Goswami shares with us in this regards, and that's from the Bhakti Samrit Sindhu, second wave, first chapter, verse number 138. And he says that the Supreme Lord, who is pure-hearted by his very nature, does not see the serious offenses of his servant, but he accepts even a little service as a great thing. He does not find fault even in those of low character. And Jiva Goswami comments, he says, this is a statement in letter of Uddhav to Akrur after he stole the Shamantak jewel and went to Kashi. And in the similar mood, Srila Prabhupada also, he has repeated this verse in his CC Antyalila, first chapter, verse number 108. So what Prabhupada says, the translation says, Supreme Personality of Godhead, I mean, the original verse in the CC, and then Prabhupada gives, I mean, he just mentions the verse from Bhakti Samrit Sindhu, so he's not saying anything. But this is the verse that is also there in the CC, Antyalila. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Purushottam, this is the way Prabhupada translated. Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Purushottam, the greatest of all persons, has a pure mind. He is so gentle that even if his servant is implicated in a great offense, he does not take it very seriously. Indeed, if his servant renders some small service, the Lord accepts it as being very great. Even if an envious person blasphemes the Lord never manifests anger against him. Such are his great qualities. So Prabhupada purport, he writes that this verse is from Bhakti Samrit Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. So see, one thing we need to understand, that it's not that the Lord becomes ungrateful, because we have been rendering so many services to the Lord. But then we, sometimes we may commit some aparadha because of our past tendencies or nature, and it can be a severe offense also. It does not mean that the Lord forgets our entire, lifetimes of service, and he only focuses on that aparadha. So this was the encouragement for that, and it is a perspective from the Lord's point of view, of course, but it does not apply to devotee intentionally committing offenses to the devotees, and if it happens repeatedly, so it does not apply to that. So this is in general, unknowingly, unintentionally, we may have committed aparadhas from previous life, this life also. So and that magnitude can be more, it can be greater, but still the Lord is able to forgive that, and he's only focusing on the smallest service that we have done. So it's a very encouraging verse from Bhakti Samrit Sindhu. So now we have understood why we have to get reactions to the offenses, because we are conditioned. We have a lot of lust, envy, anger, greed, pride in us, and unless we get free from that, we will mistreat devotees. In order to be respectful to the devotees, we need to have some kind of formality, some kind of Vaishnava dealings also. That's why we need those reactions. Otherwise, we'll not understand and we'll just take it for granted. Okay, so Vaishnava etiquettes. All right, so now let's go through. I will just go through Vaishnava etiquettes, some of them, the most important ones, and then we'll take questions. We'll stop and then we'll continue later on, because there are many things I have to cover. Why do we commit offenses, the root cause of offenses, the root cause of anarthas, all these topics are there, but we'll just cover some important etiquettes that I think one needs to remember and follow. In fact, I can also share the Vaishnava etiquette manual with all the devotees, so they will always understand what we need to do and what we need to avoid. All right, so dealing with different category of devotees. The three category of devotees. Srila Goswami says in the Nectar of Instruction that one should mentally honor the devotee who is chanting the holy name. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, and associate and faithfully serve a pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of propensity to criticize others. Okay, this is first part. Then second is dealing with the spiritual master. So what are the etiquettes? One should humble oneself submissively and render service to the spiritual master. One should take the orders of Guru as one's life and soul. In the presence of Guru, one should not instruct others without receiving his permission. In the presence of Guru, one should not take one's own disciples. One should simply obey the instruction of Guru and should not question. We should not disobey the instruction thinking that we know his real inner feelings. Okay. So see, one should not ask questions. So this is not exactly the way we would like to clarify something, but in the sense that we should not become like we should not be we should not become aggressive in asking questions, and we should not do with wrong intentions. We should not question with wrong intentions, thinking that we know more than the spiritual master, or there are certain times when we should ask questions. We cannot ask questions all the time. So certain etiquettes we need to follow in front of the spiritual master. So we should not become rebellious in front of the spiritual master. That is the point. But we, of course, we can ask as many questions as we want, unless the spiritual master tells us that, okay, we need to stop. And one should never instruct one's own guru. Even if one wants to present something one's guru, thinking that this information may be helpful, one should always present in a very humble spirit. So one way to do is, we cannot directly advise the guru. That becomes an offense. But one of the way we can do is we can approach the guru's god brother, a senior devotee, who is, of course, who has a friendly relationship with the guru, and then we can communicate to the god brother of the guru, and that guru god brother can actually present our feelings to the guru. Okay, so this is a right etiquette. One should never argue with one's spiritual master. One should never present one's qualification to the guru and should always remain in a very humble position. One should never sit down on the same level as the spiritual master unless one receives his permission. Just like Lord Krishna is not different from his name or picture, similarly, there is no difference between the guru and his name and picture, and hence one should keep pictures of Guru and Krishna at the proper place. One should not read books apart from those written by the Guru and Parampara unless one has permission and blessings. So this is also quite a concern these days, because there are so many books available and so many people giving classes online outside of Sampradaya also. So we need to take instruction, guidance of the Guru in order to read something from outside. It all depends on the circumstances. Okay, dealing with seniors. So within our Vaishnava tradition, it is important expression of our humility to respect those who are in senior position than ourselves. Now, who is a senior devotee? So there are different categories. In the chain of seniority, the senior most Vaishnava is the Guru, who is to be respected as representative of God. So he must be given the same respect as Krishna himself. Next are the sannyasis. Among the sannyasis themselves, seniority is based on the basis of who had taken sannyas initiation earlier. All sannyasis should be offered respectful obeisances, particularly when one first sees them in the day. Even Mayavadi sannyasis should be given proper respect, although one should not associate with them. Next are the Guru's god brothers. They should be respected as one respects the spiritual master. Devotees who have undergone Brahman Diksha should be respected. Again, seniority is determined on the basis of who has been initiated earlier. Devotees who have accepted Diksha before us should be given due respect. Special respect must be offered to the devotees who are senior in age. One should not instruct another person in the presence of a senior Vaishnava without first receiving his permission. When ghee lamp is offered to the devotees after Aarti, seniority must be taken into account. So one thing we need to understand that this is a generalized way of giving respect to seniors, of identifying seniors, because it's not necessary that someone who has taken Brahman Diksha first or Diksha first may be more advanced than the devotees who have not yet taken Diksha. Some devotee may be continuing from the past life and they may be more advanced than the devotees who have already taken Diksha. But in order to have a general etiquette structure, we identify based on who has taken first Diksha first, like that. Okay, dealings with God brothers. So God brothers should call one another Prabhu. One should, however, not try to become Prabhu because we are being so addressed. One should simply remain a servant and accept others as Prabhus. We are the servants of our God brothers, and according to a particular law of God brother, we must serve him accordingly. From our senior God brothers, we should inquire submissively, carry out the instructions, and aspire to be their obedient servant. To those who are equal, we should serve them by befriending them, assisting them, and encouraging them, and vice versa. And to those who are junior to us, we should serve them by guiding them, directing them, encouraging them, enlightening them. When we meet another God brother, we should bow down and offer the prayer. Vancha kalpatarubhishya kripa sindhuvevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. We should never accept a God brother as servant unless we have permission of the order of the spiritual master. So, for example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Govind his servant as a servant because Ishwarapuri had instructed Govind, who was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's God brother, to become his servant. So we must never allow the saying familiarity breeds contempt to enter into the relationship between devotees. Dealings between devotees should be respectful and without offense and duplicity, without any duplicity. Devotees must not address one another by their karmi names. One should not praise oneself or boast one's achievements or qualification to the other devotees. One should know that one actually has no qualifications. Whatever we are able to do is simply to the mercy of Guru and Vaishnavas. If a God brother or God sister is undergoing some difficulty on account of sickness or bereavement in the family and is in emotional turmoil due to some reason, one must help in word and deed. As the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. The bonds between devotees will be tested at the time of difficulty. We cannot ignore such developments as being material. If a devotee has strayed away from the path of bhakti and has not been in association for a considerable period, he or she must not be chastised for being in Maya or reprimanded in a way that will push him or her further away from the lotus feet of spiritual master. One must offer love, encouragement, affection, friendship, and make him or her feel once again in the company of home of devotees. Dealing with ladies. So a woman should be given all respect, particularly if she is a Vaishnavi and addressed as such. A brahmachari should see every woman as his mother, and a grihastha should see every woman except his wife as a mother. A brahmachari should associate with Mataji only so far as required to execute devotional service and no more. Okay. Dealing with guests. When guests come to our temple and homes, it is Vaishnava etiquette to treat them with great respect and love. They should be welcomed with sweet words, a seat, water, and prasadam according to our means. Addressing Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada has to be addressed as His Divine Grace, the Guru and Sannyasi as His Holiness, and God Brother as His Grace. A God Brother's name may be prefixed as Shriman. A brahmachari's name is suffixed by the term brahmachari. Example, Krishnadas brahmachari. A grihastha by the term adhikari, and a sannyasi by the term Maharaj, Swami, or Goswami. Dealings with other Vaishnavas. We may offer respect to, but one should not associate with the following category of people: Vaishnavas of bad or doubtful character, Sahajiyas, Vaishnavas of Sampradayas of doubtful bona fide parampara, and Mayavadi sannyasi. Vaishnavas not to be seen from material viewpoint. Srila Rupa Goswami in an act of instruction, he says that such a devotee should not be seen from materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee is having a body born in a low family, a body with bad complexion, a body with a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. In other words, one should overlook all bodily defects of bad appearance, low birth, low education, etc. Any Vaishnava serving the Lord should be considered holy. It is stated in the Shastra that it is hellish mentality to consider a Vaishnava to be born in a particular caste or creed, or to consider the same to be ordinary person. The body of a temple, body of a Vaishnava is a temple. So the body of Vaishnava is to be seen as temple of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, while offering obeisances to Vaishnava, we should remember that we are also offering obeisances to Lord Vishnu within the heart. Therefore, we should never walk over the body of Vaishnava. Mercy of Vaishnavas is necessary. One should not begin any significant venture in one's life without first receiving the blessings of Vaishnavas. One must always feel oneself dependent on the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And then Rup Goswami talks about the dealings with loving exchanges between the Vaishnavas. So in the Nectar of Instruction, Rup Goswami says that we should offer gifts in charity, receive gifts in charity. They will one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accept prasad and then offering prasad. When one comes to temple, one should accept prasad from Vaishnavas. For Grihasthas, it is their duty to invite Vaishnavas to their homes to offer prasadam. The most precious gift we can receive or give is the gift of Krishna Katha. Grihasthas staying outside the temple should try to call devotees of renounced order for preaching at their homes. Okay, so let's stop here. There are other categories also. We'll go through it later on. So there's dealing with non-devotees and then dealing reception of guests also. So that we will do it next time. So, all right. So now if there are any questions or comments, then we can take. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Prabhuji, it was a very wonderful and enlightening class, I can say. Very, very informative. Yeah, we all know that one question comes to my mind after hearing about the karmas and then offenses and the reactions and clearing the offenses. So we all know that this birth we got because maybe of some bad karmas in the past life and some good karmas we got this human life. Then whatever austerities we are doing in this life, we assume, or it is mentioned in the scriptures, like we clean those karmas through those austerities. But like knowingly or unknowingly, there are some offenses which happens in this lifetime. So will that be cleared? Is there any way? I know holy name will definitely clear it, but is the holy name taking care of your current life karmas also?
Okay.
So that you don't have to take a birth again, to clear those karmas. So is it a cycle, or you can nullify everything here itself?
Okay. So, I mean, see, there is difference between karma reaction and reaction to aparadhas. That is going to.
Yeah, I would like to add aparadhas also. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So karma will not. I mean, it may give you some kind of distress or happiness, but it may not interfere with your bhakti. Whereas aparadhas will directly interfere with bhakti. And how to counteract these aparadhas, that we'll discuss in detail in the next part. So yeah, but we have to be careful. That's why we have these etiquettes that one needs to follow. And sometimes we cannot artificially act, but we have to respect that. That's the main thing. We need to respect the different type of devotees, and one may keep distance from devotees if one is not comfortable in the association of particular devotee. Then we may keep distance, but then we have to respect also. So if that devotee has his own conditioning from previous life, and whatever he's undergoing, whatever anartha is there, it's between Guru and Krishna for them to look out. But if we are not comfortable in the devotees association, if genuinely the devotee is lacking some Vaishnava qualities, or his behavior is not proper, then definitely we can keep distance from the devotee. But we'll discuss in detail about that in our next part, because first we'll try to understand why offenses happen, and then why anarthas also develop. and then ultimately we'll see how to counter all these aparadhas. And so one thing is that devotees, we have to take shelter of devotees. We have to take association of devotees. Without that, there is no possibility of clearing any of the aparadhas that we have committed in this life or in previous life. And we'll see how to do that later on. And we'll also go through many examples from scriptures, how devotees, they took shelter.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for this very important topic of Vaishnava Aparadha and how we can prevent from doing this. Prabhuji, I have a question regarding like a practical issue. So I'll tell you, like in one of our morning japa calls, I usually say, I would like to take the dust of the lotus feet of all devotees present, but I'm not checking who is Kanishta, Madhyama, or Uttama. And then one devotee said, you shouldn't say that. But my Guru Maharaj says you have to be humbler than a blade of straw. So I don't know if my humility is for show, or I really don't understand which point to take. He says like taking dust of lotus feet should only be for Maharaj and nobody else. So can you please tell me what is the right way to address?
Yeah, so these are the subtleties of aparadhas or subtleties of Vaishnava etiquettes. See, one thing is that we give a greater amount of respect and worship to our Gurujan. That's the first priority. And of course, depending on the level of advancement of devotees, we have to show that much proportionate respect and worship. So you cannot see, of course, one thing we clearly understand, we cannot show the same amount of respect for a Kanishta and the same amount of respect for a Madhyama or Uttama, right? Because when Uttamas, they come in front of you, then naturally the respect should double or triple. So it's a etiquette in Narari Sarkar's Krishna Varnamrit. He says that when you offer respect to your Guru, the amount of respect you offer to your Guru and the worship that you offer to him, the amount has to double when his Guru will come in front of you, because he becomes Param Guru for you. So that has to be doubled. And then if his Guru will come, that has to be tripled, like that. So based on the spiritual advancement of devotees, we give them that kind of respect and worship. But yeah, this thing of taking the lotus dust of the lotus, it has to be on a mental platform. In the sense that, see, now Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, Vrindavan Das Thakur, these are all Paramahamsa Mahabhagavad devotees, and they do not discriminate. They say that we want to take, in fact, we are a worm in the stool, and we are the most fallen. And all the devotees, they are exalted, they are greater than us. So that's a vision of the Uttamadhikari. So we cannot imitate that vision, but internally we always have this, we should have this conviction that ultimately all Vaishnavas are worshipable. So there is nothing wrong in that. But of course, externally we cannot do it for each and every devotee. We need to have the discrimination power, and based on who is who, Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttama, we have to treat them accordingly. We cannot give the same kind of respect and the worship that we give to Kanishta. Okay, that becomes an offense. So that way we have to discriminate. So when it comes to action, then we have to, we have to discriminate and we have to act accordingly. But when it comes to internal cultivation, then a devotee tries to always glorify all the devotees, whether it is Kanishta, Madhyam or Uttam. Because ultimately, if the devotees are sincere, they will also become Uttam. They will also advance to the stage of Uttamadhikari. Some may take more time to progress, some may quickly advance to those stages, like that. But ultimately, because everyone is a Vaishnava, so we have that in mind that, okay, like, we have to cultivate this mood that ultimately I am the most fallen. or at least I am in that particular category, like that. So I hope it makes sense, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji. So internally, we want to think ourselves the most fallen, but externally, we have to show some discrimination.
Correct.
And not treat everybody the same. Yeah.
Yes.
But you also said like you don't know everybody, like how exalted they are. They may not be initiated, but they may have a lot of spiritual credits. But still, you should not show respect to them. Like you shouldn't say.
So that's why the Narari Sarkar, he says that a devotee must come to the level of Madhyamadhikari, because Madhyamadhikaris can discriminate. Okay, and we should not stay Kanishta, because Kanishta is the one who does not have any knowledge. He is totally ignorant. He only worships Lord in the temple. He thinks that the Lord is present and I have a relationship with the Lord, but I don't have that relationship with the devotees, or he will not have this feeling that the devotees are more important than the Lord. Only a Madhyama Adhikari can actually understand that, because he has a discriminating power. Okay, so we have to advance to the level of Madhyam Adhikari, and then by observing the devotees for some time, and or if you don't know them personally, then you hear from some other devotees, and they may, or whom you trust, and they will inform you about the devotee status. And if you are not aware of a particular devotee, then it is okay. Later on, the Lord may reveal the glory of a particular devotee, and then once you know, then you can definitely offer that kind of respect to that devotee, like that.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for explaining these topics so nicely with patience. Prabhu, my question is about, one sec, let me close the door. It's loud here. I'm sorry, Prabhu. Yeah, so Prabhu, how should our dealing be when we are we are with senior devotees and they are trying to tell us about someone else, or we hear blasphemy? We know they are like they've been initiated for a long time, and but should we just listen to whatever they are telling us about the third party, or should we walk away, or should we tell, like, it's such a sensitive subject when someone is trying to open up their heart and they're going through distress. How should our dealing be with in that situation?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. See, first and foremost, one thing we need to understand, that all these etiquettes, they are in the ideal standard, and some of the etiquettes particularly, they are meant for a particular time and age. Okay, like assuming that the guru has a close group of disciples and very few devotees. There is not a worldwide scale of organization. So during the time of Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we didn't have ISKCON spread, or organization which was spread to India or outside of India. So now during Prabhupada's time, we have entire worldwide movement. And during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur time, we had this Gaudiya months, which were there in India. So the preaching actually started from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, and then gradually the number of devotees, they expanded, just kept on increasing more and more. And with Prabhupada's appearance, then of course we now have devotees throughout the world. So see what happens when it comes to organization and like institution, then we need to manage it also. And when we need to manage such a big organization, then definitely there will be certain factor, certain mercy, extra mercy will be there. So because we have to deal with so many people, and not everyone is on the pure platform. So there will be kanishtas, there will be madhyamas, there will be uttamas. We need to also manage, and to manage means it's a big headache for us, because that will directly hamper our spiritual limbs of bhakti, like Shravanam, Kirtanam. So we may not be able to directly be in touch with, constant touch with the limbs of bhakti all the time. which was possible in previous yuga, previous times, the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji, like that, where they had just few devotees and guru and disciple. So the whole day they could do what, like they were just doing Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. That's it. Now, when you have big services, big managerial services, then you cannot, practically, theoretically, it's not possible to apply each and everything. So unknowingly, unintentionally, there will be aparadhs. Okay. And these will be forgiven to the extent the more we are surrendered to the spiritual master and to the Vaishnavas. And of course, that part I will be covering in detail in the next session. But you can just relate that. The context is very similar. The more we have bigger organization and the more we want to spread Krishna consciousness on a big scale, along with that, we have extra special mercy also of Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because without that, it's not possible to follow many things. By default, like for example, let me share an example from the Bhagavatam itself, where Indra, he was trying to disrupt the yajna of Prithu Maharaj. Now, Prithu Maharaj is actually the Saktavesh avatar of the Lord. So he's empowered by the Lord. He's a Jeev Tattva, but empowered by the Lord. And he is, you can say that, he's like directly the Lord. So he's performing a yajna, and Indra, because of his envious mentality, he's trying to disrupt it. He's already done with his 99 yajnas. Now 101 is doing, and he's not able to tolerate that. So what he does is he will disguise in some Brahmana form, and then he will try to destroy the yajna. And then Prithu Maharaj identifies that he is Indra. So he's asking his son to go and somehow fight with Indra and defeat him and bring him to Prithu Maharaj. So he does that. The son will defeat him a couple of times, but then Indra again and again he keeps disguising. Then what will happen? Then what happens is that Brahma comes, he interferes, and he says that Prithu Maharaj, enough. You don't need to do the 100th yajna. You just continue, serving your citizens. That's all is required. I mean, you don't have to make a show, because anyways you have already done 99 yajnas, and you don't need to show that you have done the 100 yajna also. The goal, whatever the goal is, the goal was to please Lord Vishnu, and that you have already achieved. So what is the use of fighting with Indra? Now Indra is actually, he's considered to be a representative of the Lord. He's one of the limbs of the Lord. Okay. So better you don't get into any kind of problems with Indra, and be respectful to him, and just do continue your service as a matter of serving the Lord. That's it. So then Prithu Maharaj follows that advice, and he sees the Lord. Okay, because of the yajna and his service, he is able to see the Lord face to face. So the Lord appears, and then they have conversation, something like that, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. But this episode shows, there are so many subtleties of details in this. One is that Indra is definitely doing injustice to Prithu Maharaj. Prithu Maharaj he's actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In spite of these things, he's still surrendering to the will of Brahma. He's not arguing with Brahma that, how can you interfere, and how can you come and tell me that I should stop? You should actually instruct Indra. Injustice is done by Indra. It's not done by me. So Prithu Maharaj does not get into argumentative mode with Brahma, but he accepts that as the desire of the Lord. So this is how the entire thing works. This is what we need to learn from the Bhagavatam also, that sometimes the authorities may commit mistakes, but because they are representatives of the spiritual master or the Lord, that's why we have to also take it in a humble way, in a positive way, or in seeing the higher purpose for the entire thing. Now, of course, it does not mean that we imitate it and we do not take action. If some devotee who is in an authoritative structure or a position, and he commits a very abominable activity, child abuse or something like that, then we are supposed to act, and we should take action. But at the same time, we should also know that there is something called as right beyond right. It's not that just by proving ourselves right, we become right. Then probably we become wrong. There's a certain circumstances where we need to accept that, okay, injustice has happened, but that is sanctioned by the Lord. This is how the Lord wants us. So we need to accept it. So now you can just imagine, that time also there was not such a big organization of devotees, but now we have such a big organization. So these things, may happen, and we need to understand that every devotee has their nature. They are not pure devotees. They are not Uttamadhikaris. They may be Kanishta or they may be Madhyam also. They may be advanced to a certain level of platform of bhakti, but they still are facing their anarthas. And I think we are also facing our anarthas. So instead of pointing out, okay, that these devotees, the senior devotees, they have these anarthas, if that anartha is directly harming you, or it is being an obstacle in your bhakti, then definitely you have all the rights to clear it, and to approach some senior authorities and to discuss about it and to find a solution for it. And if you have some big position where you have influence, then you can also use that. But of course, it has to be used in a genuine way, in a Krishna conscious way. Then you can do it. But if you do not have, you can try your best. But ultimately, all the ways that you have tried, if they are not working out, then you can just leave it and just be dependent on the Lord. And at the right time, things will be revealed, and it will be, justice will be done. Or sometimes justice may not even be there for us, but we need to accept it at that particular point of time. So such kind of things will keep happening in ISKCON, and that's why outside people, they take advantage of the GBC. In the name of GBC, they try to spread different rumors, and they criticize the GBC, and they say that we don't require GBC, because of the GBC so many things have happened. But they don't understand one simple point, that without the GBC you cannot even manage the entire ISKCON organization. In fact, one person, if someone becomes an acharya, that will also lead to a lot of problems, because if the acharya is not the same stature as Srila Prabhupada, then it will create havoc in the society. So it is always better to have a cooperation amongst devotees, and that is always much more safer than having one person rule the entire governing, the organization. So, with context to what you are asking, is that in a senior devotee talking about some other devotee, maybe that devotee is criticizing a particular devotee. But then I think the intention is very important. If the senior devotee is criticizing some other devotee for your benefit, so that you avoid associating with that, then it is okay. But if he's doing it out of his own nature, out of his own enjoyment, sense gratification, then definitely that is not something that we have to participate in. We can just go away, because the intention, the reason has to be known, why he's doing like that. And of course, we must have faith also. If we have a relationship with that devotee, then we know that devotee also. If we have faith, then we can trust his opinions. Like I had personally got experiences in the past, where couple of Prabhupada disciples, they told me certain things about some devotees, about their god brothers also. And it happened to be what they said, it was right, because they had got experiences. So I felt, at the moment, I felt that, okay, they are saying something about someone, why they are saying like that. But then later on, I realized that, okay, this is true, and I need to maintain a respectful distance or attitude towards them. So it is possible, but it all depends on the intention of the person. So sometimes senior devotees may say certain things, but if it is for our benefit, then it is okay. And if it's a fact, then also it is okay. Otherwise, if one has got ill intentions, then one is no longer obliged to follow or to also participate in such kind of discussions. So I hope it makes sense.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Dandavat Pranam.
Okay. So, all right. So if there are no questions, then we can stop here and we'll continue next class. So thank you all the devotees for joining in. Vanchakal
Anantapuri Vaishnava
Vaishnava
Ki jai.
Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Ki jai.